So ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing free agency. We are 9 days, as of this recording today, from free agency. And with it, the guys that were on the previous team who are unrestricted free agents are going to be gone. The two names we know that will be back as of right now are Tony Pollard and Terrence Steele, because Terrence Steele recently got his second round tender and the Cowboys franchise tagged Tony Pollard. But what we're doing in today's video is doing one last go around of the unrestricted free agents that are set to hit the open market, what we've been hearing about these particular players, and really should the Cowboys make a push at the end of the day to try and bring some of these guys back. Let's get straight into it. Now before we begin today's video, if you guys could do me a favor and hit the like button, that'd be greatly appreciated. Also subscribe if you're new and hit the notification bell. The average has dropped down to 85%, so we're moving in the right direction. So if you are not subscribed, please subscribe now so you get more Dallas Cowboys content in your feed, especially if you keep coming back for more. Now, we at least know the results of two of these unrestricted free agents. Well, technically one in Tony Pollard and the restricted free agent in Terrence Steele. But what about everybody else? We need to have a conversation about them. So what we're going to do is skim through some of the guys that, you might see vet minimum deals given to. And on top of that, maybe, all right, we already know that this person's going to leave. So I have the list of names in front of me right now, and with it, we're going to go from the lower tier guys and work our way up to the higher priced free agents. And really, we're hearing things, and okay, this is where the Cowboys stand with this player, because there really are only three people that the Dallas Cowboys have had conversations about contracts with. So we can kind of skim through a lot. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So the first thing we have is Rico Dowdle. I don't think Rico Dowdle is going to be back with the team, especially if Malik Davis is around. If he's back, it's going to be a practice squad type of deal. I'm not really putting too much effort now into Rico Dowdle. The injuries have really hampered his ability to possibly be a running back 3. You then move on to Brett Maher. We know that the Cowboys are going to be moving on from Brett Maher because we heard from Jerry Jones and company that they want to look at kicker again and open up a competition. So odds are Brett Maher will not be back. If he is back, it's not safe for him, especially with what happened towards the tail end of the season. You ran the course with him, and it's okay to move on. So you might see that happen. Next, you have Cooper Rush. I think that this is you sign him to a vet minimum deal depending on what the market says. If he walks somewhere else for more money, that's okay. You go into the draft and draft a quarterback. But I would love to have Cooper Rush back, just a guy to have in the system, especially if you're trying to draft a guy and develop him and maybe he takes his place. Who knows? There's that. Luke Gifford, special teams guy and occasional linebacker, whatever. I don't think he's coming back. It's kind of just one of those rotational pieces that you can replace easily. Matt Overton, he was taking the place of Jake McQuaid while he was hurt. I don't think he's coming back. I think Jake McQuaid comes back, or it doesn't matter. Going over both of them, it's a long snapper. Jake McQuaid was good. Matt Overton did his thing. I didn't complain about the long snapper, so that's a good thing. Next, we have C.J. Goodwin. He's probably going to be a vet minimum guy or a $1 to $2 million special teams dude. I've had no issues with C.J. Goodwin. I think he's been one of the better guys on your special teams. I would love to have him back, but again, we'll see. Jason Peters. It's this conflicting talk about will he be back, will he not be back. If he's back as a backup at 42 years old, okay, but it's probably going to be for a very cheap deal. That's to say the least. Anthony Barr, I don't see him coming back. I think that he's just a placeholder. I would be shocked if the Cowboys re-signed him, so there's that. We go through these names. Noah Brown is a name that I think if Cowboys fans are looking for a guy to come back, while you might look at Noah Brown as a piece that you can upgrade from, which I would agree with, I wouldn't be shocked if the Cowboys brought him back on a 3-year deal or a 2-year deal just for the sake of having depth at the wide receiver position. But again, not a big issue if you let him go. I think it's more so an issue of what you do to replace these guys. That's really the biggest end of it. So that's on Noah Brown. I think I wouldn't be shocked to see him come back. Next, we have the defensive tackles in Jonathan Hankins and Carlos Watkins. I think both of these guys played well, and I think that you could have a situation where both come back on a cheap deal, maybe a 1 or 2 year contract. I don't know. We will see how things go, but really comes down to what the market says, because there isn't a lot of traction with these guys of, what's being said. Kind of one of those under the radar stuff. Now we kind of get into guys that, while we haven't heard anything, do you possibly see the Cowboys bringing him back? So let's start off with Connor McGovern. With Connor McGovern, starting left guard, he had a solid year. He is a guy that you can upgrade from. I think that, you could see him test the market, and if he likes the Cowboys, you could see them re-sign him because they do love Connor McGovern. My only issue is like, okay, if you bring back Connor McGovern, what does this mean for Tyler Smith, especially with Tyron Smith in the wing? Okay, are you going to play Tyler Smith at left guard and have Connor McGovern as the back? Like, what is the plan there? So I think with Tyler Smith, and if they're saying Tyron's coming back, I think Connor McGovern's days in Dallas are numbered, and you might get a comp pick because he'll probably get paid starting guard money, even though he has center flex. So I wouldn't be shocked if they converted him to center either. Another name to keep an eye out on, Dante Fowler Jr. Dante Fowler Jr., productive player for the Cowboys, but do I see them bringing him back? You're looking at between $3 to $6 million. I'm going to pass on that. You can go draft a guy. You kind of have Sam Williams in the wing. That's kind of your defensive end rotation there. I don't really care. I think that Fowler was, again, kind of in the bar range of player. You're there to fill a role, and then you just move on after that. So I wouldn't be shocked if Fowler is gone. Anthony Brown's the curious case that it really comes down to where he's progressing. You could see him sign a cheap contract with Dallas, maybe another 3-year deal, but not as, pricey as it was before for his type of caliber, getting paid around $5 to $7 million. If it were honestly up to me, I'm probably letting him go and just, drafting a guy. I think that's kind of where it's at. And now we get to the 4 remaining guys on the list where there could be something there. So T.Y. Hilton, would I like to have him back? Sure. I mean, having a guy that can be dependable on third down and be a deep threat, even at the older age range, I don't think you're going to have to spend a lot of money to bring him back. I'd rather bring him back than Noah Brown, all things considered. So there you go. Then you go to Donovan Wilson. Donovan Wilson and the Cowboys are nowhere near a contract extension with the negotiations. So what could end up happening is Donovan Wilson might be gone, and then you kind of have to look at your safety room and say, okay, well, that means that we have more money to pay Jaron Kearse or Malik Hooker. But if it were up to me, I'm looking at drafting a safety this go-around. We're seeing what the guys that you have behind them can do, like Marquise Bell, for example, because Malik Hooker took a step back in 2022, and that's going to be an issue. As for Jaron Kearse, he had himself a solid season, but I'm just saying, like, if you pay Donovan Wilson, you're going to have to let one of those dudes walk, and that's just, or both of them. And Donovan Wilson could be asking for a decent chunk of change. So we'll see how things go. Maybe he gets a cheap contract from the Cowboys, and we're surprised, and then he comes back on like a $3 to $5 million deal for 3 years. So maybe there's that, but I digress. Next, we move on to Leighton Vander Esch. Now, he's one of the guys that he's probably going to re-sign, but they're nowhere near agreeing to a contract, according to several reports from Dallas media. But, for Leighton, I would like to have him back, but if you lose him, you kind of need to do a lot of work in your linebacking core. So if you let Leighton Vander Esch walk, you better be ready to go put out assets and the money you have to go and get these moves done. Then, finally, Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz is gone. It's clear as day. You know, the Cowboys have already franchise tagged Tony Pollard, and if they wanted to keep Schultz, odds are they would have franchise tagged him. They did not. And, yeah, I think Schultz goes somewhere else. You get a decent comp pick, and you just roll from there. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the list of free agents that the Dallas Cowboys have. And with it, you know, I think that the Cowboys need to really open up some cap space because they're going to need to most likely go out in free agency and add a couple guys. And even if it's, you know, backups and stuff like that, you're going to need to open up the cap. We just saw the Saints sign Derek Carr to a $37 or $38 million a year deal, and they were $55 million over the cap. Now, again, the Saints are the weird team that thinks they can contend without rebuilding, but for us, that's no excuse. I mean, you see what other teams are doing with the salary cap, and to be honest with you, the Cowboys should follow suit because that's how teams build these rosters. And, you know, if you could re-sign a handful of guys, that's great, but I just don't see it. I think that the Cowboys might re-sign out of this list a handful of guys on one-year deals, and if possible, maybe LVE comes back on a 3-year deal, and we just call it quits there, and we move on. So with that being said, guys, that is our final coverage of the 2023 unrestricted free agents for the Dallas Cowboys right before free agency opens. Tell me what you guys think. Are there guys in the list that would you like to see back? Or, hey, you know what? Let them all go, and we'll go sign some other guys. Please tell me down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.